Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with a new recording, a really very fine and useful recording, of all the Florence Price concertos. 2 violin concertos and 1 piano concerto. And, well, she's batting 2 for 3. Let's put it that way. I talked about the first violin concerto in connection with the release on Decca of Randall Goosby's recording of the 2 violin concertos, actually, along with the Bruch violin concerto with Philadelphia and Nézet-Séguin. And I got to say, it's a very good recording, by the way. But the first violin concerto is the weakest. It's a very problematic work in my view. It's full of good tunes, don't get me wrong, but structurally it's a mess. The first movement is one of those flabby moderato things. It's 18 minutes long. It seems to go on forever. It has no rhythmic muscle, no backbone, no sort of formal shapeliness, particularly because Price's harmonic style, which is, slightly jazzy, bluesy, that kind of thing. It doesn't offer a lot of things to hang your hat on when you're trying to make your music move, unless you play it very up-tempo and give it a lot of rhythm and all that, which is wonderful when she does it. She doesn't in the first movement. The last 2 movements are quite brief, 5 minutes and 6 minutes, 6 and 7. In this performance, they're, 7 and 5, which means that you've got like a very out of balance piece of music. And much as I enjoy the melodies, enjoy hearing the music, it strains your patience. It really does. Now, that's the bad news. We just have to put up with it. And I don't blame her to the extent that she heard virtually none of her music. She wrote it and it was stuffed away in a house that she rented, and they found it after she died. She had almost no opportunities to really develop as a composer through the experience of listening and revising. And considering how well she did without that experience it's kind of amazing, because the second violin concerto, which is a 1-movement thing, I believe it's 1 movement. Yeah, I hear it all continuously. It's wonderful. It's 16 minutes long in this performance. The piano concerto, it's called Concerto in 1 Movement. It's actually in 3, but they're all joined together. Is another splendid work. It could be as popular as the Gershwin concerto. It's terrific. And it's 18 minutes long. In other words, the first movement of the first violin concerto is as long or longer than the other 2 concertos in their entirety, which tells you what kind of trouble we're in. And I can only assume that Price knew it, because she never repeated that kind of structure again. She tried it, and then she went on to doing her own thing, which she did extremely, extremely well. The second violin concerto is absolutely fantastic. It's just too short to make up a program all by itself. The piano concerto, well, barely can, because it's about the same length as the Ravel left-hand concerto or something like that, and it's full of good stuff. It really is. It's delightful. Both of them are. Just marvelous. Well scored, intelligent, shapely, all the things that the first violin concerto is not. And the performances here are excellent. The violinist is Fanny Clamagirand. Why do they do this to me? It's just getting to be absolutely enough to kill you. But she's good. Fanny, Clamagirand. She's a very good violinist, and she sounds at least as good as Goosby does in the Decca recording. And the performance is with the Malmö Opera Orchestra under John Jeter, who's something of a Price specialist. He did the other symphonies that were on Naxos, but for those recordings, he had basically a pickup orchestra. Here he's got a professional band, and what a difference it makes. They're not exactly the Philadelphia Orchestra, but it's not music that makes a huge amount of difference one way or another. You just need a really good professional ensemble, and Jeter has that. So it's well recorded and beautifully played. And in the piano concerto, we have Chen, pianist, another fine artist. She learned it. She plays it beautifully. And to have all of the Price concerti on 1 disc, as opposed to something like the Bruch concerto, which is what Goosby offers, I'm sure because Decca made him do it, because they had to have a popular favorite. Well, here, Naxos was under no such constraints. And it's a much, much more useful collection, even with the first concerto, because you may like it much more than I do. And it's not intolerable. It's just not as good as the other 2 works here. So with that said, this is a fully recommendable disc. And if you don't know the second violin concerto and the piano concerto, you really ought to give them a listen because they are splendid pieces. They really are. Now they've both been recorded a couple of times, and the piano concerto has been recorded 4 or 5 times by now, I think. But this is as good as any, and I'm sure that you'll get many hours of listening pleasure out of the entire disc. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.